Well, we can go into, I'm sure I'll have some comments to make as well, but let's go into your tips. So I would like you to share with the audience the top 5 tips for organizations and individuals to drive equality. Let's start with organizations. So I know you have a few for organizations. What can organizations do?
I mean, obviously, as you know, I've so many
Yeah,
tips.
there were so many in the book, so you want more?
List for everybody. So, but you know, let me focus in on key ones. I think the first one is having this 50-50 mindset as an organization. You know, wherever you are in an organization, whether it's in the HR or, you know, at the senior management levels, really having the 50-50 mindset and just totally buying into that at all levels and making that reality. It makes me so livid when I see people setting targets, which are, you know, this German target, this German quota of we must have at least one woman on a board, or even 30%. I mean, where the hell does this come from? We're 50% of the population. We've got equal intelligence, which means we're 50% of the intelligence in the world, the capability in the world. Why on earth would we settle for anything less than a 50-50 target? And I'm not saying it's easy to get there. We can talk for hours about all the reasons why we're way behind on that, but at least get into the mindset of when I walk into a room and I look at my team, that's what I want to see, and how do I get there? Don't settle for anything less. And as you're recruiting, as you are promoting, don't settle for anything else, because I can promise you, absolutely without question, that if you have less than that, if you have fewer women than that, you have missed out on some talent. You have somebody in that room who is probably fantastic, but not as good as someone else who should be there. So just getting into that mindset and really, you know, not settling for anything less. So that's my first big one. Linked to that, you know, one close to your heart, recruiting equally. Just, you know, if you don't start equal, it's going to be really, really tough to end up equal at the senior levels where we really, really need it, because that's what changes cultures. And obviously, you know, Lauren, that means attracting women equally. And there are so many learnings, aren't there, about the language you need to use, the images you need to show, the benefits you need to talk about that will attract women as well as men. And there are things that just turn a woman off before you've even started. You won't even get her, you know, looking at the application form. So attracting equally, and then knowing how to evaluate when those women come in for interview, knowing how to evaluate them and knowing how to really evaluate their ability and their potential, and getting beneath the surface of confidence. Because as we've said, confidence is very attractive, but sometimes beneath the surface of confidence or a lack of confidence, there is some very surprising ability or not.
Sure.
So really being super focused on that, I think, is at the recruitment stage is so critical. And I know it's something you're very passionate about helping companies and organizations to do, which is fantastic. Third one for me for organizations is make sure you have a balanced culture. You know, do you really look around and see and smell and feel a culture that is equally comfortable for everybody, whatever their gender, whatever their race, whatever their culture, whatever, that everybody truly feels that they can belong in, which almost means, you know, it cannot have any dominance. That if you look around and you see a dominant group, you know that you don't have a balanced culture. And I can promise you that what that means is you'll have people who are not comfortable, they're trying to fit in, they're not performing, and that's going to make you evaluate them unfairly. So, and this is something, you know, it's just a case of awareness. It's not difficult when you're aware to have a little scan around your workplace, whether that's real or virtually, and ask yourself that tough question. Do I have a dominant culture here? And if I do, how am I going to balance it out as quickly as I can?
Yeah. Yeah, I wanted to make a couple of points from the recruitment perspective, of course, that's something that I've seen from the very beginning of recruiting, that if you don't think about the diversity of recruitment and really putting your mindset into we need to get more balance, you end up very easily with a long list of 6 males. Just because, as we said, number one, getting females on the phone and networking with them is harder. So that was my first realization, is first you need to connect with them, network with them, and build a relationship with them. And it's something that we've been trying to do for years, since we were founded. And we are working towards 50-50. We're at 43% now of all the individuals which we presented to our clients, 43% of them were females. And I would say even more than that, challenging clients during the briefing of what they're really looking for, especially when they've given us the brief that they want to bring diverse talent into the company, but the brief is shouting out something different when it comes to culture and requirements of that individual. Let's say requiring, we want them to be charismatic. Okay, well, explain to me why you want them to be charismatic and how that contributes to the success of that role. So I think those key questions, especially in the briefing of each job and challenging them, is really key. From the cultural side of their internal culture, that's something that they need to choose to change. Obviously, from our perspective, we can help, but we can't really change very much from an outsider's perspective, from our consultancy perspective.
But, I think it's fantastic that you're putting that focus on, because I do believe, and I know you and I have talked about this before, that people like yourself, organizations like yourself, helping companies with recruitment, they can really bring in that awareness and that perspective that sometimes, on the inside, so yes, we've put a brief in saying, oh, we'd really love a woman if possible, but then lose their way on that very, very quickly. So I think the role that you can play on making sure that, the candidates go in 50-50 and just catching them at each moment. Okay, let's just talk about why you don't want to put that candidate forward, talking a little bit about competence versus confidence, talking a little bit about some of those invisible dynamics. I think you've got a massively important role to play in changing the world here, Lauren. Really do.
Yes, I'm excited about it. It seems like a big job, but excited about it. Yeah, we also started recently our executive mentoring program, which for some organizations that may not have senior female mentors yet, because that will take time for them to build that in their organization, to offer some of their more junior female talents senior female mentors, which I think is key, and what we've heard from the industry as well. I had Steph Lilly on the last podcast, who's the sales director for UK and Ireland at Reckitt Benckiser, and she was saying for her journey through sales, she realized that there were no female role models and how important that was and how much it adds to, let's say, your journey and your view of your career. So I think even organizations, we don't want them to feel discouraged if they don't have that today, and kind of give them, let's say, an immediate support while they build their organizations, because of course you can't change that from one day to the next.
Absolutely. It's such a great point and such a great idea. Obviously, it's ideal when an organization does have female role models. They absolutely must use those. But if not yet, import some, because, you know, there is so much truth in the whole motto, what you see, you can be. And, you know, a woman doesn't necessarily need to see a senior woman in her own organization. She can see her coming from somewhere else and say, you know what, I can be that here. I always say to women, sometimes you're the role model in your organization. Sometimes you are going to be the role model. So, you know, if having a mentor from someone else helps you get there, then fantastic.
Yeah. And what about for women? So what can women do?
Oh, so many tips for women, but I'm gonna have to pick the umbrella theory. Just really never forget the umbrella theory. Think about it, you know, every single day. Remember, it is not enough to do great work. It needs to be visible. You need to be visible. And, you know, networking is not a dirty word. Self-marketing is not a dirty word. You need to make time for it. You have to carve out that time in your agenda, just like you would for a meeting, because otherwise it won't happen. I would say ideally an hour a day, minimum an hour a week. And, you know, don't see it as selfish, see it as it's for you. It's in order that you ultimately get the visibility that you need in order to get the jobs that you deserve. And I promise you, if you don't do it, you're going to get very, very frustrated because your competition are doing it.
Mm-hmm. And what about for men? What can men do?
So much. And, you know, we need them to, right? They have all the power right now. So we're going to get nowhere without them. But I think the biggest ask would be an open supporter. Be an open supporter, be an open feminist, as I call them, my feminists, my too small but amazing group of feminists who openly support women, who openly speak about how important this is, not as a charity, but as a business driver. It is so powerful when men do this. You know, unfortunately, when it's just women talking about this, it can look like, you know, it can look like moaning. When men talk about it too, it starts to look like, okay, maybe this is actually, you know, good for everyone. So, of course, isn't it fantastic and obvious that for us to get to gender equality, we need men to do their equal parts, at least. So being an open supporter, being a feminist, speaking up, I mean, nothing more powerful than when a man catches a woman being interrupted, for example, and says, "You were interrupted, I'd like to hear what you were going to say." And when a man, you know, if gender equality is on the agenda, when a man speaks up, so powerful, so important. And by the way, men, good for your business. Whatever your business is, I promise you this is good for you. So there's absolutely no reason not to get on the feminist team.
Well, Jill, thank you for sharing these tips. I think that everyone listening now has something to take away and start doing even today. And in terms of the book, we have many more tips in the book. So where can our listeners who may want to read the book and gain more, where can they purchase it?
So it's obviously on Amazon UK.
Okay.
It is currently only available in English. It is in the process of being launched in Brazil, actually. So it'll be in Portuguese.
Oh, exciting.
But yeah, Amazon UK, Waterstones UK, Bookshop, obviously, which is fantastic because Bookshop, they actually do support local bookstores, which is more important now than ever. This horrendous year. And there's also Bookdepository, which has a free delivery worldwide for those who aren't in the UK. So lots of places. And Kindle. It's also on Kindle for those who prefer that, but the cover's so beautiful. It
is or the smell of a new book.
I like the hard cover.
Well, thank you so much, and I appreciate you coming on the podcast today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's always a pleasure to talk with you, Lauren.